Are you in the process of creating something huge and you want to understand how others have done it? Or have you already found success and still feel something is missing? Then this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Alchemist Lounge, a podcast where Alex Atwood chats with top performers to discover habits, routines, and alchemy that you can put to work in your own life.
Awesome. I am talking today to Pauls Pujats, who is an Olympian, who is somebody that really looks fear in the face and is constantly looking to expand, grow, and take on any challenges that's coming its way. So I am so happy to have you here on the show, Pauls.
I'm feeling very blessed. Thank you. Thank you, Alex, for having me. I really appreciate it. It's always nice talking with you and having this conversation.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Well, so what I want to hear really is the journey of an Olympian and the journey more of Pauls Pujats. And so tell me what it was like, your childhood in Latvia. Give me a little flavor of that. What was it like growing up there?
Yeah. I moved here. I'll start with a different story. I moved here 10 years ago in the United States, roughly 10 years ago. And one of the biggest reasons why I moved here is actually, it's kind of personal, but my biggest motivation is literally to kind of escape the environment that I was growing up, because it did not feel natural for me to be there. First of all, it did came, from the parents. I would say from my father, he's a very military kind of man. And that strict regime that I had all the time was quite tooling on the mental health. And when I moved here, I worked really quite extended to my mental health. When I was in Latvia growing up, we did not have that kind of opportunities that you have here in the United States. So it's quite tougher, even just training, traveling from one part to another part. The public transportation was pretty good, but I got to share this with everyone. A lot of times there's always like this 2 or 3 people who are there and who just, I don't know, whether they be homeless or they have a bad breath, but man, this tank was so bad.
At the bus stop?
Every time. So it was inside of transportation. Inside of the public transportation. Yeah.
So was it just you alone that was so you would have to go to the you'd have to go to where the public transportation was, right? And
because you couldn't get there with legs or by walking there, and I didn't have any like private car or anything like that. So at that time.
So it's public transportation everywhere, but the public transportation you were taking also included some characters that were in the in the areas that you were.
Oh yeah.
So it was possibly dangerous.
And quite a bit. I recall about at least 3 instances when I was going to school, back to house, and then even sometimes to work out. We call them in the local language Gopniki and Urlas. So this is an explanation of Latvian or Russian-speaking people, usually about from 3 people to about 8 to 9 people, usually. And they're gonna go around you, and they, instead of like in schools where you see bullying, they don't only do that, they also like literally will rob you, like steal everything from you and they'll leave you there.
How old were you?
So it's pretty rough. It wasn't like the childhood you normally would probably have. I would say in the United States, I would say you get the bullying, and after the school, when you get the bullying, you got another level boss that's gonna wait until you're gonna go home.
Wow!
And that happens all the time. It happens all the time. I wasn't the only one, and that was a huge motivation to get strong and get big.
Wow. So how old were you when you would have to deal with that type of thing, when you maybe getting robbed?
It started as early as I was about 8 years old, like literally I was 7 years old. And when I was in my grandparents outside of the city, it's a distant city out of the capital, where I was literally just bullied because I wasn't speaking Russian language. And, again, there was like about 3, usually older, they were about like at least teenagers, maybe even older, who was just literally bullying you, who was just picking on you. I had no idea what they were talking, because I don't know the Russian language at that time. So that fear actually made me learn the language. It's kind of like something bad, but also at the same time, at least I learned the language and I know what it means now.
Wow.
And it went all the way until age of, I would say, 15. After the age of 15, I got strong. And they usually don't mess with you when they see, someone can threaten their livelihood.
Yeah, so let's unpack that a little bit. So you were in a highly structured, disciplinarian type of household. How many brothers, how many sisters, how many siblings were there in your household with you?
Older brother, he's 3 years older, and 2 younger sisters. And the sisters were it's quite a big difference. I think the oldest sister is 8 years younger than I am. 8 years. Yeah. 8 years, and then an even younger one is about 12 years. 12 years, yeah. So,
got it. So it was you and your brother. It sounds like, because you were so close in age, that were probably bonded together, like going through the childhood journey together. Yeah.
Yeah, our bonding at that point was a little bit different. We were fighting all the time, literally all the time, and he was 3 years older, and I think it was exact age where older siblings like, oh, I don't want to mess with, I don't want to have this younger sibling going around. It felt like it was like a little kid that you got to babysit. But we were fighting all the time until we moved to the college, and then we got real close.
Yeah. Was there competition between you two in terms of athletic? Or
Oh yeah. He was so. I recall this. He was always so mad when I started to get closer and closer of beating him. I recall that, and funny enough, before the Rio Olympics, he was my coach. Actually, he was actually training me.
Wow,
so
wow.
How rivalry went to him actually teaching me and coaching me.
Wow. So okay, let's talk a little bit about that, about when you started to build yourself up as an athlete that is potentially going to be an Olympian. When you were young, was that a dream that you had? Making it to the Olympics. Tell me about that. Like where did it start to where you thought that this could be something you'd want to pursue to a higher level?
When I was about 13 to 14, I think that was the age. Looking at older guys, older athletes, how high they were jumping, and it was about 5 meters, which is now is not that high. It's high, but it's not that high. I could not imagine. So about 17 feet. I could not imagine, I'll be jumping something like that. It felt like, whoa, this is crazy. This is so high. Like, how? And even at that point, thinking I'm going to Olympics, looking at other athletes, other Olympians, on the TV, looking at them competing is like, wow, this is crazy. I could not imagine, honestly, myself doing that. I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe because I didn't have someone else who was already doing this and showing me, a part of my older brother, but he wasn't jumping as high, as the really professionals, the high level. But
so did he start before you?
We started almost the same time. Yeah. But he was better. He was older, he was stronger, faster. And at that time he was better until the age of, I would say until age of 16. And then I was at one point is okay, I'm just starting to get better. And then I started competing in international meets, and then I significantly was better than my brother.
Wow. And so that was when you were in high school, yeah? Or no, that was when you had gotten to college when you started to compete at that level. Because
it was in high school already.
It was in high school, right? So he was, I guess, out of high school, maybe just a year or so out of high school, and suddenly his brother starts really taking on higher and higher levels of challenges and meeting them. So let's talk about when you first, when you were going through that trajectory of really, getting really good at pole vaulting, right? Pole vaulting isn't something, at least here in the States, that everyone has access to. Mm-hmm. Do you have access to, or how did you have access to pole vaulting, to the equipment, to the, to all of that? And where did you start to find yourself compounding, right? Where you started to see yourself incrementally getting better and then suddenly getting a lot better. Tell me about that. The equipment, where was it from? And where did you see yourself growing that way?
Yeah, I was very fortunate that, my father was able to afford that kind of equipment, because pole vaulting is not cheap sport. One pole can cost about $800, not just one pole, and we need at least like a whole section of it. Just like a golf, you need a section of clubs, that whatever you're going to go and hit, it would be a far hit or a close one. Same thing goes with pole vaulting. Like you need your weight, it needs to be a little bit higher than your weight. And then also the flex number has to be specifically to your strength and your speed. So I was very fortunate that my father was able to afford that and, support us with that. And then, we were using basically older poles that they had on the spot in track and field stadium. But the place where we're training, honestly, in indoor facility, because in the winter time, Latvia gets really cold. We get snow up to the knee. It gets minus 20 Celsius, minus 25, sometimes minus 30. I'm not sure how much is that in Fahrenheit, but it's super cold. Super cold.
Really cold.
It's basically like in Alaska in winter time. It's super cold. Yeah. And then, that's why even the facilities that we had, they were about 50 to 80 years old, super old. So the facility did not hold heat that well. And inside of the stadium, inside of like the indoor facility, you literally need to have like layers of clothes to feel warm, to even warm up. And sometimes takes even an hour just to warm yourself up to the temperature where you feel, okay, now I actually can do something fast. Otherwise you can get injuries, So it's you literally had to work with, from the start. After finishing the school, you had to go back to home. Then you had to travel by yourself with the public transportation. Usually takes about an hour, to go to the facility. When you get to the facility, you need another hour just to warm it up. And then, and it's important also to cool off. And then you gotta see afterwards, travel back in 1 hour. Sometimes we get lucky. My dad can come pick us up, and we can bring us back home. And our friends live pretty close by, so it was fun. It was a fun game at that time. But now looking back, I was like, wow, I did so much. I did so much as a little kid. It was like, no way I'm doing this right now.
Yeah.
And when I got to the United States, everything got so much easier. It was just so pleasant because of the weather and the conditions. It was just so much better.
Yeah. When you were like launching into the air and you started to see yourself like getting higher and higher up, can you describe that feeling? Because, for me, as someone who's never done it before, when I would watch somebody pole vault, it was it was like all, things had to be done in a certain way. Something had to land at an exact certain point, and there had to be just the right amount of torque, just the right amount of just to get over that, and just to see the body sort of contort around that top pole, and to see it sort of sometimes tap, but just tap just enough to leave it there is just, it's pretty magnificent. And I could see as a child, I could see myself visualizing myself doing that, but I couldn't see myself doing it. So did you find yourself doing a lot of visualization? Like, were you going through the motion of, all of the different points of landing and kind of going through it in your sleep and during the day? And was that something you did?
That came later. When I was in college. I saw actually my roommate, Austin Crenshaw. He was also a pole vaulter at that time. He's my roommate, and we're also like my competitor. We're competing because we're in the same Memphis track and field, both Tigers, and we're competing with one another. We got a friendly rival, and he was watching all these pole vault videos, which I never did. Before the meet, I was like, "Why are you watching it right now?" Like wondering, like, is that helpful? And then he kind of introduced me like the visualization, try to see the jump and kind of mimic it in your mind. And then I did a little bit more research behind it. I saw there's like this study showing where people who literally were shooting basketball hoops, trying to get into the hoop. And in one group, they were shooting it. Another one was not shooting it, but they were visualizing it. So one of them were actually physically throwing in, and then the other group was just visualizing it. And both the groups did the same, just as good as the ones who were training all the time and for those who were visualizing it. So that's when I started to actually practice the visualization. The power of visualization is very, very powerful. but it didn't come easy. It's a practice like anything. Like it's a whole brain training.
Yeah. Yeah. What was it like the first time you had
The jump?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I think I was 13 when the first time I actually could bend the pole, because before that I was jumping on straight pole and landing on my feet on the mat. But when I was able to bend it and actually fly up and then jump over the bar and land onto my back, I was like, oh my gosh, I finally jumped. That was the most exciting part, honestly. Like, oh my gosh, like such a huge stepping stone, and from straight pole, landing on the feet, when you actually can jump up and land on your back, because this is where you actually have more air time. And then the more I practiced, the more exciting it became a game. It was a very exciting game. And then when I really started to fly up in the air, then it becomes an art and a whole motion. And then you can even, unfortunately, there's a rule when you jump over the bar, and you cannot touch the bar or put it back on, but it's a whole art. You can actually like slightly touch the bar while you fall down, literally, put it closer so it stays there. And it's a beautiful art, honestly, but they took it away as like it's an illegal move that you can't do, and it doesn't count. But sometimes it depends on the judge. Sometimes the judge allows you to count it as a jump. That's where I feel like I wish they kind of left it, simply because it's just so much more skillful when you can do something like that.
This is fascinating to me. So it's almost as if once you're in the air, you can like it feels like you're almost stopping time for a minute to be able to have enough to be able to kind of, just push, just kind of push the bar back into where it needs to go as you're landing. So having that experience and landing on your back, do you see that as cascading to other challenges you're finding in your life in general? Like once you did that, did things shift any at all from your childhood? Like, wow, I just landed something that I've been working on. Like, what happened after that for you as a kid, or even into your adult life?
I would say at that point, like I was always this kid who I did not have a talent. Like I was not really like gifted with speed or, with excess amount of strength or technicality. So the only thing that I really, why I got to where I was because of my determination. Like I have a vision and like literally just not able to give up. It's something like I keep falling. This is where honestly it comes later on where I understand like I so encourage everyone to fail as much as you can, because this is where you learn so much. Like this is where you actually grow. And a lot of times people are afraid to fail. And I think, this is also what I'm going to teach also to other kids. Like always just fail as much as you can. Don't be afraid of that, because, always looking to succeed and always waiting for that moment, it's never going to come there. Or if it's going to come, it's going to be very lucky as well. And in general, life is also a lot of luck.
Yeah.
So you just got to take chances. And this is, I think, what I took away from those jumps. Like you just got to keep trying, just got to get back up there, keep trying, keep getting there, and don't lose the game. Because at some point I was like very frustrated when I could not jump and I could not land or something is not happening. You have to take a step back, take a breather, evaluate what's happening, what's going on. It's so important to have a mentor. It's so important to have a coach there who explains you what you need to do at that moment. Very important. So I think those are the main takeaways, from my experience.
Yeah. Who was your mentor at that time? Who was being your...
He was coach. He was an athlete himself at some point. In the Soviet Union, he was one of the best athletes actually in pole vaulting. So yeah, his mentality was very old school though. He did knew more than the average person, I could ask in pole vaulting in Latvia. But in the coaching method, the way he was coaching, I'm grateful for the knowledge that he gave me. But there's a level where he went through and then he stopped learning. And, he just took the old kind of like teachings and that's it. That's all he had, like a template. And I think this is so important to have like multiple mentors, multiple coaches, because you learn so much more from others. And it's also important for the coach, for that mentor to learn with you, because every individual is unique. No one is the same. Like your technique, your body, your mind thinks differently than anyone else's. This is why you have a specific approach the way you do things. And, that needs to be taken account of whenever you do something new or try to get better at something. You have to take account of that every individual is unique. No one is the same. So he did not have that mentality. And that's why I was fighting with a lot of injuries and even like we had disagreements, and then, it's a disagreement. It's a conflict that's created.
Yeah. But it sounds like your evolution just called for different mentors and different partners to come in and support you throughout your journey. And you were very aware of that. So
I was aware of it later.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's true. sometimes you're just not aware. Most of the time, I'll say, you're just not aware while it's happening in the moment. What was it like walking out there, 2016 Olympics? Was there a particular moment, maybe when you qualified or maybe when you walked out there representing Latvia? Was there a moment there that was, that you felt that there was something beyond you, or were you so into getting it done, just the technicalities of making sure that the jump went well and all of that you didn't allow yourself to be distracted by the moment that you were in?
Yeah, I think the two biggest points was when I qualified, because it took so much out of me, physically and mentally. Just getting that qualification. It was the last competition indoor, actually, when I was able to qualify for the games. So it was literally last chance. it was. I would train outdoors as well, but I just know if I'm not going to jump it now, outdoors it's going to be. You just cannot predict Mother Nature, because in pole vaulting, Mother Nature is everything. Like if it's blowing in face. If there's rain, like it gets so much difficult, and I just wanted to get it. I just wanted to get it done so I could just peacefully, continuously train, for the Olympics. So I got that qualification in I think it was February 28th in 2015, February, and 2016 actually, yeah. And after on August, that's where the competition was. When I qualified, that was like. It's a feeling I never experienced before. It's very hard to explain it into words, but it's like, wow, imagine you're working your entire life for something and you have achieved it. You've got it. Like you achieved that, like, that level, at the highest level that you can possibly do. And you got it. And that was kind of like, whoa. And at the same time, it was kind of like a little bit of bittersweet moment. It was like you fight it, and you finally achieve it. And it's like, wow, okay, what's next?
What's next?
What's next? Yeah. It's. I had that moment, but when I was driving back, it was a weird sensation. I was happy and stoked, but at the same time, I felt kind of like I'm not sure what to feel about this. It was a very confusing feeling, and I'm still till this day I can't really explain what it was, how it was. But the next moment, when I was in the Rio, when I was going into, because before in the preparation, I was basically considering myself, avoid any injuries, because that one injury can lead you, if there's one hamstring tear, that's it, you're done, you can't compete. And, you qualify, that's one part. Then staying healthy is a whole nother game. And then I was very fortunate that I was healthy enough that I could, compete. There was nothing wrong. I felt great, except I didn't have that much of a jumps in my bucket that would, lead me to more comfortable technique. But yeah, when I was walking inside into the stadium, this is the moment I actually realized, okay, you made this. Like, this is where it came. Like, you made it. When I was walking, it's like a very peaceful, joyful, and just a whole room of emotions, pleasantness from within, going into the stadium and then competing. And when I was competing, it's like, oh wow, it was a lot of pressure. It was. I won't shy away from that. I was kind of very focused. Like, I gotta make this. Each jump is so important for me to get into the finals, because this was the next step. Like, I gotta jump higher so I can get into the finals, so I can get fight for that medal. That's why you go to the Olympics, right? You don't go just to compete there. You go to the win. And that's everyone's mentality there. At least from my experience.
Yeah.
And then, going into the warm-up stadium, and then in the competition and starting to jump and competing. And then hearing the news, you got into the finals. I was like, wow, another amazing feeling.
Wow.
Very, very stoked feeling. And then, then I was just like, I could not sleep. I was just too much adrenaline, too much of it, and didn't know how to cope with that feeling. And even though like I had done a lot of meditations and a lot of mindfulness, it's very hard to control those kind of emotions when you're in them in the first time. It takes practice. Like anything.
Yeah. How do you know how to calm your emotions in the Olympics unless you've done it before? Exactly. You don't understand being in that position until you're in that position.
Exactly. You can practice mentally as much as you can, but when you're put into that scenario, it's a whole different game.
Yeah. Who had your back at that time? Like who would you go to when you're at the Olympics to talk to about, how you're feeling or get support or feel like, you have that? Yeah,
those were two main people in my life. Tyler Frazier, he was the coach in University of Memphis. He coached me all the way until Rio. And my brother, Carlos Pujats. So both of them, I had both those individuals who really helped me, go through it.
Yeah. Your brother was with you at the Olympics?
Yeah, he was.
So at that point, the competition was over.
Well, he had his own goals of making sure I qualify for the Rio, I compete there, I go into finals and, fight for the medal. Yeah. So the goals changed from beating me to helping me.
Isn't that beautiful?
It really is. Literally, you said it perfectly. It really is beautiful how it changes, the mentality of your mind.
Absolutely. Wow. So you're in the finals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now suddenly the competition is just leveled up, right? I mean, it's just, the best of the best of the Olympians. Did that add any additional amount of pressure, or was it just so taxing anyway that, it was pressure regardless of whether you were in the finals or not?
I mean, the pressure was there.
Yeah.
What actually kind of took me really away from the really focusing and being completely in there, distraction. I guess you could find it as I hate putting excuses or anything like that, but like really that mentally kind of was challenging for me because I was not practicing enough to do well in that kind of scenario, that situation. It started to pour rain right when the competition started. And then it was really, really raining. And, for that grip, imagine the smallest little thing can get in the way, particularly if you don't feel comfortable. And that discomfort, it is important to feel comfort, being comfortable in discomfort. But that rain, and I have like this sticky tape that I have on my hand and also sticky spray, and it was not gripping well, like it was sliding. And that uncomfortable sensation when you go into the plant, it just completely takes away the focus of like, you need to focus on the jump, not on your grip. And if you have that smallest little thought into you, this is going to mess up your entire jump. Simply because in the back of your mind, in your subconscious, you're thinking about your grip, not actually competing, not actually like jumping, the technique. So that kind of get in the way of me to really, fully go to my potential. But you live and you learn.
Yeah. Well, they say you learn more from failure than you do from success.
Very true.
So, yeah. So there you are. The rain is coming down. You've never had a chance to practice. Your connection to what you usually do wasn't there because of the discomfort you were feeling and all of that. So what was the feeling like when you didn't win the gold, when you didn't get there? Was it very disappointing? Did you feel as though you were, it was all a loss, or did you feel built up and expanded and ready to take on more things?
I think, it only comes once in 4 years. And I guess I haven't added this one before. I tried to qualify for London Olympics, which was in 2012. And I missed out 10 centimeters, which is like 2 inches, like this much, nothing. And then, and then after 4 years, so it was 8 years, that I was practicing trying to get to the Olympics. And I finally did get to them. So that was great. I mean, I achieved already the goal, but obviously when you achieve some goal, it's like, okay, I want more, it's always this human mentality in mind. Like, I want more, never satisfied.
Yeah. They say the nature of life is to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. It's beautiful, but you gotta celebrate the things that, you already achieved. I think that's very important because the life goes by very quickly, very fast.
Yeah,
and if you focus on the next thing, you kind of miss those small, like, little victories, which are great, which are the big ones actually. And in the competition, when I the most devastation, I guess, was that I did not clear the beginning height. The beginning height was quite high, actually. It was 5 meters 50, which is about 18 feet 6 inches, I think. 18 feet 6 inches. So it's still pretty high for, particularly if I haven't practiced that height, to clear with the first jump. And I ran through 2 times, which I didn't even made any attempts to jump. And the third one, I was so high over, but I was so worried about my hand slipping. I put so much of the sticky stuff. When I was launching myself from the pole stuck to me, and I couldn't get it away. And I was already over the bar, but the pole was stuck, and then it ripped me back, and then I just landed right on the bar. It's like, it was such a devastation, because I finally made a jump. I might have made that attempt, I tried, but it was unsuccessful, and it was a hard punch in the to swallow. But whenever you experience it, because so many people are watching you, and your support behind you, and because you're not only there by yourself, like, you're there with the whole team, the whole team,
whole country,
and even from the United States, all the people who I've competed in the University of Memphis, and then my friends in the United States. So yeah, that was kind of like a hard punch to swallow, to say the least. But you live and learn.
Well, to me, it's inspiring to see how many people have your back over time as you start to get success and failure, and success and compound and build strength. I think perhaps you gave other people strength, and you gave other people something to root for. Absolutely, your brother got fully vested in you, so you inspired people around you, and you inspired them to be better based on what discipline you put in, and on your dreams and your goals that you were fulfilling. So you definitely impacted a community, and so you and I met because of what you're working on now. You're also continuing to look to impact communities and taking on challenges and all of that. And I find it very interesting what you're doing now. So why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
It's a completely different field, but still related to extreme sports. It still is. Honestly, this project is even more important for me than I feel like the Olympics. Honestly, in the level that I could help, the whole team, the project could help people. Yeah. And when you're a professional athlete, you kind of have to be selfish, simply because you have to really devote yourself to that sport, to that event. But this project is, me learning extreme sports in all nature elements. And, the first element is the element of water and the sport of cliff diving. And I have a professional cliff diver, Dan Warden, who is going to teach me, and who is already teaching me how to do cliff diving. And we already got the first pilot, first episode shot in Hawaii. And it was a great success, amazing new things that I learned that I did not expect at all to learn. Did not thought they were important as well at the same time. And some crazy stories as well that we included, into that episode. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and we also include various experts in various fields, particularly in the health and wellness field. One of the issues that I've seen in the United States and overall in the world is not many people practice non-conventional methods. This is, whether that be Reiki, image therapy, acupuncture, trigger point therapy, all those. and kind of rely on quick fix, so to say, which usually takes the symptoms away. Like pharmaceuticals, surgeries. Some of them are absolutely necessary. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against them. I'm just seeing that there's about 80% of the people can completely avoid those things if they simply take their own health in their own hand. The issue is that they don't know how to do it. So we're educating, we're showcasing the techniques, whether that be showing me my techniques that I'm doing in my own sessions while I'm hosting as well, or other experts in various fields, from Buddhist monk breathing techniques to yogic asanas that, allows you to calm the heart, calm the breath, the mind, have a deeper sleep, restorative body, etc. From all those and incorporate it into those series, into those episodes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we're working on.
Yeah. So let me understand this. So what you're doing is you're taking on physical challenges that are varied through all different of Mother Nature's elements. So you're starting with cliff diving, which is water. And so had you done any cliff diving prior to filming your first pilot for this new project?
I have done cliff jumping, and there's a big difference between cliff diving and cliff jumping.
All right, so explain that
cliff
difference.
Jumping is, yeah. So cliff jumping is when you land on your feet. So there's no twisting, there's no backflips, there's no flips involved in it. Cliff diving starts when you shift your body 180 degrees. So which is if you're starting from the legs, finishing with the hands, with the water, in the water, or vice versa, and have flips in the air. So that's the difference between cliff diving and cliff jumping. I've done cliff jumping, but not cliff diving.
Wow.
And, in the first episode, I can tell you a little bit more about this. I was blown away when I actually stood on the edge of the cliff and seeing Dan, jumping off, and there were two other people, and it was about about 16, 20 meters high to super high, at least twice the height that I'm used to jumping in the pole and then landing on my back. And it's a different gymnastic, different height. I was like, whoa, my gut drops down just by thinking me, I'm going to have to jump. I'm going to have to do this. I was like, what did I sign myself up for?
Wow. So how did it go?
I'm always committed.
Yeah. How did it go?
Well, I still have not. Well, the thing is, I still just cliff jumped. I have not cliff dived yet because it takes practice. I can't just do it in 1 week. It takes, preparation. It takes practice to do something like that. And this is the importance, what we want to share as well, because not even jumping into the water. What do you think was the most important? What is the most challenging thing actually in cliff diving? When you're in the cliff in the ocean.
I would say,
in your thoughts,
landing, making sure that you land. I would say landing. Okay, in a dive, you want to be able to land, or not land, I should say, enter the water. With that point to be able to. I would think so. Is that right?
That's one of the two most important ones. But even harder just in the landing, because you can land, and if you get unconscious, then you can drown. But the second, the most important part is actually getting out of the water, because no one pays attention to the water as being threatening for them. It's the soft cushion they're landing in. The waves are insanely crazy there. From the bottom of the feet, where the water is, it can change to the top of the ceiling in just a second, instantly. And imagine those rocks when you're trying to crawl out, crawling out of the water, they're razor sharp. And then there's sea urchins, and then it's slippery, and you're trying to walk there and being smacked with that massive wave. You just get drowned in there. You can just cheese grate it on the reef or on the rocks, what Dan likes to say. And first time when I jumped in the water, just out of curiosity, Dan told me hey, try it, and the waves are pretty high at that point. when I was getting out of the water, and there was like, for this part, there was a rope. And it was, when I was trying to walk up, it was super slippery. And then there was one huge wave, it literally just ate me. And then when it was going back, it was trying to slide to started sliding my feet onto that cliff. And I tried to like catch my balance, and I just started to crawl as quick as I can, because otherwise like it would literally smack me on the wall and literally cheese grate me on the side of my body. When I got out of the water, I was very lucky. Like Dan even said, like, I was surprised you got out of the water so quick. But it's only because I have skill set before, I'm bringing to it. Like I have athletic abilities before already. That's why I could, take upon this. Other people, I'm not sure, they might not have that speed or that strength to pull themselves out.
Yeah.
When I was standing outside on the edge of the cliff, for a while, like comprehending, oh my gosh, I did not expect that. I look at my feet and I see just blood, on the bottom of the feet, because those rocks are so sharp, they just cut you right through easily.
Wow.
So that was my first experience.
It sounds like you might be, Paul's, an adrenaline junkie.
I don't know.
It sounds like it. But I'll tell you what, though. I never thought about that, but yeah, I mean, getting out, like diving off of a cliff into treacherous waters, sounds like it's a two-part situation. First, it's diving and making sure, like you said, that you land and that you don't go unconscious. And then number two is once you've dived, you need to get out, which isn't something that you think about when you dive into a pool, right? So an Olympic swimmer, who's diving has no consideration about sea urchins or drowning in massive waves in a live living body of water.
I can tell you one story.
Yeah.
One of the last shooting locations that we had, one of our volunteers, two of our volunteers called us, because they were already there for 1.5 or 2 hours. And they told us, hey, someone passed out here, shooting location. It's like, everybody's been sent out. I was like, well, we still got to shoot. It passed out. It's probably nothing crazy, right? That happens. We're going down. We see everybody's going up. And then we see police treating it as a crime scene. And then, we saw a helicopter actually literally carrying him away with another person on top of it. And it's like, well, wow. Dan told us, like, if it's a helicopter, it's probably pretty bad. Like it's got to be really bad. And then the next day we came back to that location because we had a sunset in that location, and Dan was doing cliff diving in there, and I was doing some jumps in there as well. And we saw this local guy who was actually one of the guys who tried to save the guy who was in the water. And, he told us like he tried to crawl on him because he wanted to save him. Usually what happens to people when they try to get out of the water is they panic. When they panic, they breathe so much, they get so exhausted, and they start to literally breathe water in. And he tried to crawl on the guy who's trying to save him. It's like, that's not happening. He pushed him away because both of them would drown if he's going to try to crawl on him. And he saw it kind of relaxed. And then at the moment he sees him like with head down in the water, like not responding. So he dragged him out finally. When he got him out, he tried to resuscitate him. There's another guy who tried to resuscitate him and just couldn't. The guy passed away. And he was snorkeling there. He was not even jumping. He was just snorkeling, trying to get out of the water.
Wow.
And he was all by himself there, which is also a huge no-go. You always have to have someone else whenever you're around cliffs, whenever you're diving or snorkeling. And something I found out from another apnea breathing coach while I was in Hawaii, he was training me as well, is that the most dangerous sport is snorkeling. People die the most from snorkeling. I did not know that.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
How do you like that? Well, it's got to be something to be arriving at the area where you're going to be doing this, and then you see that, right? I mean, that's just another. That
was terrible.
Yeah.
Like
that's terrible.
I imagine myself jumping in the water because like someone literally just died there.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, as beautiful and as majestic as nature is,
it's nothing to be messed with.
No, it's alive, and it's more powerful than any of us humans think that we are.
Yep.
Wow. Well, this was a fascinating interview. I mean, I can tell you, I am so privileged to have had this conversation with you. We're gonna do one more question, and I'm gonna pull it out of my deck here. I have this deck. It's called What's Your Word? And it's going to be totally random. Okay.
All right.
So this will be the last question. Totally random. Totally random. See, it's called I don't think you can see it. No, you can't see it. But that's okay. I'm gonna read it out to you anyway. So the question is, what does the world need more of?
Love. In one word, love.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one of my top 5 values I just discovered is love. And the world can never get enough of it. And so I can tell that you have a lot of love, clearly, in the way that you're mentoring and you're continuously pushing the limits of your life and making connections and building relationships. And it's an honor to talk to you and to learn all about your story. I'm looking forward to partnering with you and seeing what we could do together. So thank you for joining the show. If you want to learn more about Pauls Pujats, if you want to learn about this project, you can see the information. It's right down there in the description. Please click there. And you can also support Pauls by going to his website. What's your website, Pauls?
It's my last name, pujats.org. So it's easy to find.
Easy. With a J. PUJATS.org. Go check him out. He's awesome. And he will motivate you. Thank you so much, Pauls. Pleasure having you. And we will do this again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for listening in to the Alchemist Lounge. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review on Apple iTunes. To catch all the latest from Alex Atwood, you can check out his website at alexatwood.co. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time at the Alchemist Lounge.